Hi there, and welcome to week one, the first webinar of the 8-week life hack. Thank you very much for getting involved. I hope you guys are ready to get plenty out of this week's webinar. So you've already seen the introductory webinar about finding your values and so on, and that's obviously perked your interest into getting involved with Words with Oz's 8-week life hack. From here, we'll take that idea of your values and your core values, and we'll continue to work on it as we build on creating your most ambitious and fulfilled self. So far, you and I have worked out a list of your core values. It's probably still quite a large list, and you'll find yourself refining that more and more over time. You might even find yourself adding to it and taking away from it. That is normal. That is not a problem. We've really started that journey of working on developing who you want to be. Not what you want to be, not what you've got, not how you get it, but that idea of who you want to be. At your core, what are your deepest, darkest values? And then, of course, at the end of last week's webinar, or at the end of the introductory webinar that you've watched, I had you come up with that one habit, one decision, and have one conversation. So I'm expecting that you've done that. I hope you have done that, because you would have seen the results and the kind of thing that I'm trying to get you to do with the implementation of the action. One habit, one decision, one conversation. Even those small things can change a lot within the space of 1 week. Now, as I touched on last time, what Words with Oz is all about is creating who you are, what you want, and how you're going to get it. So the idea is I want to begin with who you want to be, and then we're going to work on the what you want, as in your goals and your dreams, and then we're going to work on the how you get it. Now, while from this screen you'll see that most importantly on the foundation of the process is the who, it's funny that actually getting there is the how. So as we move through the weeks, we'll move through this process. So today's all about your dreams and your timeline, and then setting some daily habits. So it's kind of that combination of still a little bit of the who and a little bit more of the what. And then as we process through the weeks, by the last week, we're really working on the nitty-gritty on how you get it. So the purpose of the 8-week life hack. So I've been doing this for quite some time now. Whilst the webinars are only new, I've been doing the actual program, a 8-week, a 9-week one-on-one or mastermind program for some time. And the purpose of the 8-week life hack is to take you from where you are right now to be the person you want to be. Now, I'll do that within 8 weeks if you do the work. And I'm not saying that I'll have you achieve the goals and dreams that you've set out, but what I am saying is that I'll create the person you need to be to achieve those things. And that is the purpose of the 8-week life hack. And we do that in two forms. The first form is we create the you that never gives up. So what I'm talking about there is the you that has self-belief, self-faith, and the ability to be the most resilient and ambitious you and achieve the things by not giving up. That is most important. The second part of it is that I will educate you and have you follow a specific process that's been designed. Now, I didn't come up with it. I mean, I put these words together and these 6 steps together, but they've been designed well before my time by people much smarter than I, and people have just rehashed them over time. But the 6 pillars process that I've kind of put together here for you to pursue those dreams is the second half of it. So the first part is to create the you that never gives up, and the second part of it is to follow this 6-pillar process. And this, you've heard these before with Words with Oz, but I'll run through them quickly. The idea is to begin with the dream unrealistically, get out of your comfort zone. What is it you want to achieve? Set and follow a plan. Create this disciplined routine to get that plan underway. Act with courage so that you can break through any barriers, resistances, or fears. Perform in your peak. So this to make sure, this is an efficiency idea. Make sure you're performing at your best and getting the most out of your time. And then the last lesson, which really fits in with what I was talking about with creating you that never gives up, is to work hard. What's the idea of working hard? What is working hard to you? What is working hard in general? And then, of course, not quitting. So they're the 2 parts of the 8-week life hack. Just to reiterate, we will create the you, the person that you most desire to be, and we do that in 2 parts. We create the person that never gives up, and we follow a 6-step process to achieve your dreams. Now, this is a visual representation of how the 8-week life hack works. First of all, you've got health and growth up the top. Now, health and growth health and growth are the overarching ideas of the 8-week life hack. These are the needs you'll find that most people need. These are the needs that most people have. Everyone wants to be healthy. That's kind of your purpose, your balance, your spirituality. That's not being fit necessarily. This is health. It's something different. And then, of course, everyone wants to grow. Everyone needs to keep building. That's why you guys are here doing the 8-week life hack, is because you want to grow as a person. You want to become better. Now, so they're kind of this overarching umbrella that sits on top. And then in the middle, you've got you, or as I've labeled it, me. And that's where your values sit. So they're the things we've been working on. What's you at your core? They're the most important part. I need you to, you could print this screen off, or you could just write it down perhaps, and list what your core values are. And then from there, from your core values, we go out into the different areas of your life. Now, I've labeled these as the four main areas that you'll find in your life. And a lot of people label them differently, or maybe have 3 areas, or maybe have 5 areas, but these are the 4 areas that work for me. So the first one is the refueling. So this is your idea of recreation. Your hobbies, your downtime, the things you do for fun, the things that really pump you up, pump your tires, and fill your cup, so to speak. The next portion is the relationships. So this is, who's your significant other? This is your family and your friends and those closest to you. This is also how you interact in those relationships. So things like romance, things like sex, things like communication, they all fall under the relationships banner. Next, we've got fitness. I once again distinguish the difference between health and fitness. Health is an overall aim or idea. Fitness is more specific. We're looking at your nutrition, we're looking at your exercise, we're looking at your daily routines, your psychology, your sleep, maintaining those things to keep you up and fit so that you can function as a human. And the last section, of course, is vocation. This is work. This is what you do every day. This is your profession. This also encompasses, finances, investment, things like that. Now, some people may find investment fits under refueling if they truly love it, but majority of us kind of put investment in the income, in the area of how we're making money in our career side. So that comes under this umbrella. So that gives you a pretty good visual of how this will all play out. So in the future, we're going to come up with your goals and dreams, and you're going to work that out in the different areas of your life. In the future, I'm going to get you to work on some daily habits, some daily tasks, and you're going to really want to try and fit them in one of those four areas of your life. Now, when I run this program normally, I'd have people come up with their own commitment. And when I say when I run it normally, when I run it in a one-on-one or a mastermind online presence, not in a webinar series, I get people to come up with a commitment, and they commit to that before they get started. What they truly want to get out of this 8 weeks. Now, so how I'm relating that to you as a webinar participant is just purely the expectation. What do I expect from you guys to do? First and foremost, I expect you to be honest. Open and honest with yourself, and open and honest with me. Are you understanding what we're talking about? Because if I pump out webinar 1 and then suddenly I send you webinar 2 and you haven't really understood webinar 1, yes, you can get involved in webinar 2, but by the end of the 8 weeks, you're not going to have achieved all you can achieve if you haven't done it in a sequential mode and haven't understood things. So I need you to be open and honest with what you do get, what you don't get, what's working and what's not. I need you to be open and honest with yourself that you're doing the work. Are you actually putting in the effort and the time to get things out of it? And then, of course, I'm going to be expecting you to do the activities. We're going to run through activities today. We're going to run through activities during every webinar, and I expect you to actually do the work. I'm not the type of person that's going to check that you've done the work. You're an adult, you're a grown person. Granted, you've signed up to do this, so no doubt you are the type of person that gets things done, gets activities done. But that is an expectation of the participants. I'll also send you a few additional resources as we go through the program, and it's expected that you use them. They're there to help. I've created this course, this webinar series to get it done, to help, and it'll be expected that you take advantage of everything that gets sent through. If you do the work, you'll get the results. At the end of all of my 8-week life hacks, I always get feedback from people. I always ask people to give me a rundown of how it went, what they thought, and what they achieved. And by far, without fail, at the end of all the programs, it's the people that get involved the most who receive the most. The biggest improvements that I see are the people that do the work, you know, send me the questions and all that kind of thing as well. So make sure you're getting involved, make sure you're doing the work. Otherwise, you won't see the results. Now, the structure of the program is obviously 8 weeks, but there are only 6 webinars. So with those 2 extra weeks, what you will be doing is setting aside a time with me. You and I will organize that where you get an hour one-on-one. So you need to decide when and where you want to use that. I'd suggest using it after 2 or 3 weeks. So let's get 2 or 3 weeks under our belt, and then you can hit me up with a bunch of questions, and we can set aside a week then maybe hit 3, 4, and 5, and then bang, we'll hit another week together. So that's up to you when you want to do that, when you want to set aside an hour between you and I. In the meantime, the 6 webinars are quite straightforward. There are 6 main topics which follow the 6 pillars, and there you can see what we'll be going through in each week. So this week, week 1, unrealistic dreams, refining our values, short and long-term goals, as well as a little bit of work on signposts. Webinar 2 will be visualization, planning, and creating our perfect day and our perfect week. Signposts also fit in there quite well. Webinar 3 is all about habits, routine, and discipline. What are the things we need to, who do we need to become to get to where we want to go? Really relies on our habits. So that's week 3. Week 4 is about courage and fear. Now, courage and fear is this idea of what are the things that are stopping us from achieving who we want to become. So I work on how you break through those using courage. We work on resistances. We do a little bit of self-analysis and working out where our self-sabotage is. And then, of course, we do some commitment. You know, that's what's going to get us through, being committed to the end result. And then there is performance, the performance state. So that's week 5, the idea of having the right elite thought patterns, attitude, consistency, and that side of it as well. And week 6 is my favorite week. It's all about working hard. You know, what is hard work? It's all about not quitting, getting to that point of not quitting, and then we're building a bunch of resilience. So there you 6 webinars over 6 weeks. 6 main topics, and they're the underlying topics beneath each of those. Not to forget, you get 2 extra weeks where you can have some one-on-one time with me, some online time with me, some either a phone call or a Skype call, or maybe your own personal webinar where we'll go through the things to make sure you're really going to get the results out of this 8 weeks. Each webinar is going to be structured the same, and this one will follow suit. This one might be slightly different because during the introduction I'm telling you more about the entire program, but in terms of the education side of the webinars, they'll all be structured the same. We'll touch on what you've learned so far. I'll introduce this week's topic or the new topic. I'll do an overview of what I'm expecting you to learn. So I'll do an overview of what we're going to talk about, and then I'll do an overview of what you really should get out of the webinar, what things you should have, what tangible takeaways you should have, what you should have written down, and how that's going to affect your life. And then, of course, I'll go into a little bit more detail on the topic. I'll go through the activities and the exercises that will help you get through that topic, and then at the end, I'll wrap it all up with a quick review and conclusion. So this week on the 8-Week Life Hack, we are talking about dreaming big and dreaming bold. So we're talking about these unrealistic dreams. What are you going to try and achieve with your life? What do you want to get done? We're going to set those unrealistic dreams into a long and short-term goal. So we'll set our long-term goals, and then we'll come back through in a timeline process, setting the more short-term goals that will get us on the way to that dream. And we'll spend some time refining those values even further. No doubt during this last week, since you heard the last webinar, your values have popped up in your head, but you've also thought, oh, is that one really one? Or maybe I should add this. I expect that your brain's been on a bit of overload as far as values and core values is. That's normal, that's expected, and you'll forever be refining those values. I still, almost 15 years since I did my first values list, I'm still refining exactly what the values are. Obviously, they don't change too much anymore, but just getting a little bit more clarity, it'll happen forever. So that's what we're doing this week. Your expected learning this week will be to be able to distinguish the difference between dreams and goals. More specifically, how the purpose of dreams and goals in this program. You will have established some goals on a timeline, and created some signposts. Signposts is just another word I use for short-term goals, and that'll make much more sense by the end of this webinar. And you'll have an understanding of the effects of your daily habits in pursuit of your goals. So before we get truly into it, I just want you to have a little bit of time to think about your ultimate end goal. So this week is all about creating your most ambitious you. If you want, as you might have seen from the first screen, you need to push yourself beyond your current thinking to really achieve the things you can achieve and want to achieve. And this week flows on from last week's ideas of the core values, but we want to turn that into something that will make you your most ambitious self. So this week's all about achieving and forming the action necessary to achieve some of these goals that you're going to set. By the end of this week, we won't really ever dive back into setting out what you want to achieve. By the end of this week, and the luck is you're watching a webinar and you've got the ability to replay all of this stuff, but by the end of this week, you have a set of your most ambitious goals in all the areas of your life. So what's the dream? What do you truly want? When you envision that person and that person with your core values, what have they truly achieved? And what have they achieved in the 4 areas of their life? When it comes to recreation and refueling, what do they get done every week? What have they achieved? Where are they? How many holidays do they take? All that kind of idea. Maybe social sport. How much of that do they do? How much do they go out? How much do they see their friends? And then when I'm talking about friends, let's move on to relationships. What's your ultimate end goal in a relationship? Is it marriage? Is it to be a great friend? Is it to be a great son, a great daughter, a great mum? What's your relationship end goal? What does it look like? Where are you? Similarly with fitness, how fit and healthy are you? The idea that we can get this fitness up and about and get you performing at your best as a human will mean that all these other areas fall into place and you are your healthiest self. So fitness, what kind of exercise do you do? How do you eat? What do you look like? What size are you? All that kind of stuff that falls under the fitness. What will the ultimate end goal be there? And then lastly, vocation. This is the one where most people think they're coming onto the 8-week life hack to get done and to achieve and to write down to get more succinct, is the idea of their vocation and goal. I want you to think about them in all those 4 areas, but obviously within this vocation area, where do you want to be? At work, in your career, with your finances? What's the ultimate end goal? Is it to be secure? Is it to be abundant? Is it to be free? What's that end goal? What does it look like? How would you describe it to yourself? So I want you to spend some time thinking about that now. I want you to think about what financial goal you have. I want you to think about how much money you need in the bank, what your income needs to be, what your investment set aside is. I want you to think about fitness. Perhaps you're already a fit person. Perhaps you're not. Do you want to be going to the gym 5 times a week, or do you just want to be someone who can walk every morning? What are your fitness goals? I want you to have a think about that now when you vision yourself in the future, what your ultimate end goals are. And when you're coming up with those ultimate end goals, I want them to be big and bold. Don't just write, I go to the gym every day. Say perhaps you want to, at some stage before life passes you by, you want to go in a bikini competition. Perhaps at some stage before life passes you by, you want to go in a powerlifting competition. What's the big, bold, unrealistic end goals? And I want you to put them far outside your comfort zone. Don't think of the goals that you've already achieved previously in life. Think about the goals in the future. Think about the things that are unattainable. There's someone that I listen to on podcast, and I can't think of his name right now, but when he's talking about his health in the future, he says he wants to live forever. He truly believes, or at least he's set the outrageous, out of his comfort zone, unrealistic goal that in this day and age we'll come up with the scientific changes in medicine to create someone that can live forever. And he's articulating that as he goes. He's saying his end goal is to be someone that lives forever. That's his fitness goal. That's his end health goal. Now, last week I asked you to do the authentic you activity. And I'm going to ask you to do it again as we're running through this webinar. And the purpose is it's a great way to visualize who you want to be in the future. And what I mean by that is, when you were doing the process, I asked you to think about things like, where do you wake up? Who do you look at when you wake up? Who's there? Where do you live? How do you interact during the day? And when we're making those visualization processes, we're thinking about our perfect day, and that's usually our ultimate end goal, our unrealistic dreaming. So if I'm thinking about 10 years in the future and I know that I'm being chauffeured somewhere, everywhere in a black car in my suit, they're the kinds of things that I need to put on my ultimate end goal, and that's what I want you guys to do. So the authentic you is the process of visualizing who you are, or who the person is that you most desire to be, and what you're doing as that person. So I'm asking you to do that process now. Ask yourself a few of the following questions. What would you strive for, or what would you try to achieve if you knew you could not fail? If finances and failure were no issue at all, what would you do with your life? Who do you truly want to be? Or perhaps another way of reframing that is, what did you want to be when you were a child? What was your dream profession as a kid? Did you want to be that? Did you want to be that surfer who traveled the world? Did you want to be a sports person, or did you want to be a fireman? Did you dream of being a banker? Did you want to be Donald Trump before he went nuts and became some of the things he is today? Who do you want to be? Who as a kid? Before the world started telling you no, before people said, oh, don't do that, you can't do that, it's too hard. Back when anything was possible, who did you want to be? What did you want to be? What did your life look like? Did you want to be a princess? People laugh at that, but hey, there's plenty of them going around. We've got Australia's own Mary, we've got Meghan, we've got Kate, plenty of people who've gone on to become princesses. So what did you want to be before you started getting told you couldn't? And I want you to think about that in terms of all of the areas of your life. What did you want to be in relationships? Did you want to have the best husband or wife that everyone that knew you was envious of the relationship? Is it a fun relationship, or is it an open and honest relationship? How does that relationship fall in with your values? When you look at the list of core values that you came up with last week and that you continue to come up with as we move through the program, how does that fit in to the ultimate end goal? If one of your core values is honesty, then surely one of your relationship end goals is to have an open and honest relationship. It wouldn't be just to have a handbag partner, or someone that looks good on your arm who you didn't really talk to. That wouldn't make any sense because it doesn't fit your core values. If your core value is something like being a provider or a protector, then when you're coming up with your work vocation or you're thinking about relationships, then you'll be someone that keeps your family safe. That'd be the end goal. It'd be someone, you'd be in a position at work or have created a job or an income source that allows you to provide, allows you to have the income source that provides what you need in your life and what those people that you love need in their lives. So I want you to make sure you have a think about that from the perspective of your core values as well, and make sure it's in all four areas of your life. Now, the refueling area is an interesting one because that's recreation, but perhaps I can clarify that better for you by saying things like this. That is the idea of, if you love to surf, then perhaps you live near the ocean. Or if you love to go camping or get away from the hustle and bustle of the city or phone reception or whatever the case may be, then you want to set up a life that allows you to do that, and that'll be your end goal in that refueling process. Perhaps there's some people that love to meditate and switch off every single day. Then their ultimate end goal may be to be a yogi, or maybe to be someone that meditates twice a day. These are just throwing out some ideas for you, but that's what I mean by your ultimate end goal. What does it look like? Now, before we move on to some more of the tasks for today, I want you to think about each of the areas of your life and what's most important. Now, when you signed up for the 8-week life hack, you would have been thinking about achieving something specific. Whether it was being or creating a better family, or perhaps it was that you started your own business and you want to be better at that. You want to be a better business owner. You want to turn from a small business to a medium business, or from a medium business into a larger business. And I want you to think about what it is that you truly want to achieve out of this, and that's where I want us to put our focus and get quality out of that time. And the reason I say this is because in pursuit of truly ambitious goals, you need to have a relentless level of focus. Think about the people that you know that have achieved great things in their area of life. They do not spend their days balancing every single area. They may have other, so let's look at the 4 areas of their life. They may have 3 areas that are quite good and 1 area that they are extremely focused in, but majority of the people that are highly talented at one thing, fail at others. Great businessmen normally have pretty shitty marriages. Great sportsmen perhaps don't really set up their finances too well. I mean, they get paid well, but are they looking forward to the future in a financial aspect? So I encourage you to think about that. One passionate goal in one area of your life will bring quality and focus to that area. 2 passionate goals will be obtainable. You can still achieve it. But if you start to spread yourself too thin across 3 or more areas, then being incredibly ambitious and overachieving becomes less likely, and you're looking to just live a well-balanced, mediocre life. Now, I'm not suggesting you can't be successful in all areas. I'm just saying that you need to allocate the appropriate amount of time to each one of those areas as you move through. And dependent on how outrageous your goal is, dependent on why you signed up for the 8-week life hack and how outrageous the goal is for that thing, will depend on how focused you need to remain on that area of your life. So just have some time or spend some time to think about that as we run through, because it will matter. Where are you going to spend your quality? Where are you going to create your quality and spend your focus? What area of your life? Now, you've been thinking about your goals for some time. We've been talking about it now for about 15 minutes, and you should have a fair few ideas rattling around in your mind as we have been discussing this idea of an ultimate end goal and this outrageous, unrealistic goal. I want you to write them down. Let's make them real now. Let's give them a vision. Let's give them a taste. Let's give them a smell. Let's put them into reality. Write them down. Now, I've given you an idea of how to do that on your screen. As you can see, this is a pretty typical table that I create for some of my clients. Up the top, I'd get them to write what area it is: refuel, recreation, relationships, vocation, fitness. And then underneath, I want you to write your 2 goals. What's your first outrageous goal? What's your second outrageous goal? Fitness, your first outrageous goal might be to run a marathon. Your second outrageous goal might be to live to 80. Work, your first outrageous goal might be to be the CEO of the company that you work for. Perhaps your second outrageous goal might be to have 6 investment property on your portfolio. Think about them now and write them down. What area of life is it? Give me 2 goals. So within the next few minutes, you'll have written down 8 goals. 4 areas of life, 2 goals each. That's 8 goals. If you're struggling with one of them, hey, this is a webinar. You have the ability to replay it. Press pause, brainstorm. I ask that you do that now. All right, so you will have those 8 goals ready and willing to go in the 4 areas of your life, 2 goals each, outrageous goals. Can't wait to hear how big and outrageous and unrealistic some of those are. Once again, if you're looking at those goals and you don't cringe slightly when you say them, then they're probably not big enough. I need you to think way, way, way outside of your comfort zone. And now we're going to work backwards. We're going to work back to today. And what I mean by that is, at some stage in the future is when you want to achieve that unrealistic goal. Perhaps it's tomorrow, perhaps it's next week, next month, next year, 10 years, 20 years. Now we need to work out what to do between now and then to get there. So we're going to work backwards. When are your goals set for? Is it to be in a loving relationship and family And if that's the case, is that something that you have now and that you can start creating immediately? Or is it something that you need to find and create and build and get there in so much time? So I want you to set a timeline to it. Think about how far into the future you are when you are living as the person you most desire to be. When you do that authentic you process, that authentic you visualization, how far into the future are you actually looking? Now is the time to work that out, and then we're going to work backwards. As you can see by the screen, I've got this idea of let's work it out when it is, and then perhaps half the time. So if it's in 10 years, half the time in 5 years, work out what you need to achieve within 5 years. If your goal is to run a marathon next year, then work out how far you need to be running in 6 months' time. And then work out it again in 3 months' time, and then in next month, all the way through to next week, all the way through to tomorrow. If you want to, there's the example I'm going to use. If in 1 year's time I want to run a marathon, then how far do I need to be running in 6 months' time? Well, it really depends on where I am right now, but the idea might be, okay, 10K in 6 months' time. Then in 3 months' time, I want to be running 5K. In 1 month's time, I want to be able to run 3K non-stop. 1 week, perhaps I just want to run 2K. Tomorrow, perhaps I just need to get out there and run between 500 and a K. Depends on how fit you are and so on, but there's your idea of what I'm trying to get you to achieve here. We're trying to work out what your short-term goal is going to be and on what timeline. What needs to be achieved when to achieve your ultimate end goal. If you want to be CEO of your company and you're currently a lower level associate, then you probably want to start making some noise. You probably want to start talking to your bosses. You probably want to start talking to your managers, asking for raises, asking for more responsibility, asking, perhaps you need to email your CEO and ask what his process was. Do some research. And if that's the case, work out where you need to be when to get to where you want to go. Now, the way that I'd like you to create that or write them down will be an idea to write what you're going to achieve and when. And these are going to be your signposts, your short-term goals that you can focus on that tell you you are achieving what you want to achieve. So if your long-term goal or your ultimate end goal is in the future to run that marathon, then what are you going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow you're going to run 500 meters. And I'd like you to write that down in some form to create that signpost. Tomorrow I will run 500 meters. Then you're going to write, next week I will run 1 kilometer. And I want you to think about the words that I'm using here. I'm not saying I'd like to. I'm not saying I should. I'm not saying I can. The words we're using is I will. What are you going to do and in what timeline? So let's create those signposts now. And these are the things that are within our control. As I was talking about before, with the ultimate end goal, they are so far into the future and should be so unrealistic that you can't actually achieve it right now. So you don't really even know how you're going to get there. It's just that ultimate end goals create a direction. They give you a point in the future to aim at. They are not the things we are in control of right here, right now, to achieve what we want to achieve. So that's why we break it down in time and we bring it all the way back and we work backwards to today and we create the goals or the signposts that are within our control, that are achievable tomorrow, next week, or within a certain time frame that we know we can get to. If you want to be CEO of your company, that is maybe a long way away, but what's not a long way away is getting a raise or getting to the next position up on the ladder or on the track to becoming CEO. That's what signposts are. And I want you to write them down in each area of your life. It's going to take some time. So use the ability to pause and replay this webinar to write down each areas. And think about all the things you need to achieve. So if you want to be the type of person who can go on a family holiday 3 times a year, work out what that looks like, work out what short-term goals you need to achieve with the resources that you have here and now, and write that down. I will, what will you do, and by when. And we're working that through from the idea of the 4 areas of your life. Right now, you've got 8 ultimate goals, 4 in each area of your life. And we need to write what you're going to achieve to get there. And to do that, we're writing down our signposts. Now, the idea of signposts can be probably best explained by a metaphor. Now, I apologize if you're not from the eastern states of Australia, but this is the metaphor I'm going to use, and hopefully you can either bring up a map on Google, or at least the story will give you some idea of what I'm trying to say. Imagine that you lived in Sydney and that you wanted to drive to Brisbane. So that's the metaphor. You are here now, and your goal is somewhere in the future, or as it might be, Sydney to Brisbane, somewhere north. You don't get in your car in Sydney and start driving aimlessly, hoping that one day you'll arrive in Brisbane. What you do is you work out which direction you need to go. So you work out you need to go north. Now, when you get in your car, there are no street signs that say north, or there are no street signs that say Brisbane. So you have to start with another destination. So if you're in Sydney and you want to drive north, you might drive to Newcastle. And then once you get to Newcastle, there's still no sign that says Brisbane. But you know that a little bit further north is Coffs Harbour. So you drive towards Coffs Harbour. And then you get to Coffs Harbour and still nothing says Brisbane. But you know that further north is Ballina or Byron Bay. So you drive to that next destination, and then you get there and find the next one that's north, and the next one north from Byron Bay might still not be Brisbane, but it might say the Gold Coast. So you keep driving north, you keep driving towards the Gold Coast. And then suddenly you get to the Gold Coast, and there it is, the sign that says Brisbane. So you start driving there, and suddenly you've arrived. And that's why I use the term signpost. That's how goals work. When you've got your ultimate end goal being some outrageous dream far beyond your realistic bounds of today's expectations, then you need to work out what direction that is, and you need to come up with a signpost that will get you there. If you are a single person right now, but your ultimate relationship dream is to have a family of 4 with a loving partner by your side, then what direction is that? And what signposts do you need to hit and when along the way? We need to start writing those down, getting those in our mind, getting those on paper, and giving ourselves something to refer back to in pursuit of achieving the goals that we want to achieve. I trust that all makes sense. And I'll give you some time now to write your signpost down. And after deciding on our short-term goals or our signposts, then we can begin to form a list of tasks to complete daily, weekly, monthly progress tasks that will assist us in reaching those signposts. These are the things that we can control. We should only concentrate on what we can control. Everything, and trust the process, trust ourselves, have self-belief and faith in ourselves that if we do what we can do, what we know is on the line to getting to what we want to achieve, then the rest will fall into place. And if it doesn't, just have faith that you'll be able to adapt and work it out. Another metaphor that I like to use is the idea of a plane. Aeroplanes do not take off from one runway, point their nose at their destination and fly straight there. They have to look around, they have to take the weather into account, they have to take the Earth's rotation into account. Sometimes they have to go way offline, off track to get to their destination of where they want to go. And that is also how we're playing these goals. So all they do is think about the next point they need to get to, one elevation or one point on the globe, and then they get there, readjust, check the weather again, have a little change in direction, a slight alteration here, a slight up and down there, and they eventually end up where they need to be. And that's how our goals are going to play out. So as you're writing these signposts and creating these to-do lists of tasks that you can do daily to get to where you want to go, think about it that way, and think about it in terms of these are the things that you can control in achieving what you want to achieve. So if you want to run a marathon next year, then your daily tasks would be to go for a run. Your daily tasks, a weekly task might be to have one recovery. A monthly task might be to have one longer run per month. Let's work out what those daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks are and get them written down as well. As you would remember, at the beginning of this webinar, I spoke about the overarching missions of the program being growth and health. And that's where these daily tasks come into play, because these are the things we can achieve. So these are the things that give us a sense of fulfillment on the daily, a sense of achievement as we go through, a sense of happiness that we're on the path to achieving what we want to achieve. So these are the most important intricate steps along the way. Your daily tasks in achieving your end ultimate goals. And that's in all areas of your life. Like I said before, you may be focusing on one thing. You may have come to the 8-week life hack to achieve one specific outrageous goal, and that's great. But you will not be able to achieve that one specific outrageous goal in that one area if the other areas of your life aren't upkept. I'm not saying you need to concentrate on them as much. I'm just saying they need to be upkept. And that's where this idea of daily tasks can come into play. For instance, if you want to become CEO at work, you will need to focus. I can't even explain right now how hard you will need to focus to get there. But I can tell you that if you don't take control of your refueling and what fills your cup on the daily, then you will never get there. So you need to put in the daily tasks of things like perhaps it's a 10-minute walk, perhaps it's walking your dog, perhaps it's a 5-minute meditation, perhaps it's half an hour in the gym. What are the refueling things you'll do? Perhaps it's a weekend off once a month. Trust me, if you're working 20 hours a day, you will not become that CEO. You still need that time off. All of them have done it at some stage. That time to refuel, replenish, get going again. I hope that makes sense. Perhaps I can give you another example. If your fitness goal is to run a marathon, then you'll need the support. Therefore, you'll need the relationships in your life to get there. So you'll need to set aside daily tasks to do the small things that build the relationships, whilst you set the daily task to do the big things that get you to run a marathon. That's the idea of growth and health overarching across this entire program. Hopefully you've had the ability now to define, create, imagine, visualize that ultimate end goal. And then working back from that ultimate end goal, you've looked at the timeline to get there, when you want to achieve it, what it looks like, and worked out the things that you can do now, shortly into the future, so on and so forth, all the way through to achieving that goal. And as your brain starts to open up to the idea of what this ultimate end goal can be, it will start to think about your values. Remember, they are at the core of deciding who you want to be. And as your brain is thinking about those values, it's going to want to refine, remake, rethink, rewrite, and perhaps argue with you about what those values are. And this is a reminder to say that it is an ongoing process, and it will be ongoing all the way through our program, all the way through this 8 weeks, and all the way through the next few years of your life. By the end of the program, I know you will know and will have become who you need to be to achieve what you want to achieve. And most of your core values will be involved. Most of the attributes you need to become that person will already be there. There will always be the ever slightest change. Recently, I added to mine the commitment part. It was always to be a gentleman. It was always family and friends first. It was always to inspire with ambition. But there was a piece of my life missing where I wasn't necessarily committed to my results. So and it was belting at me. It was really tearing me down. So more recently, I added that in there. And now I have a passionate commitment to my results. And you'll find that works with you as well. Refining your values is an ongoing process. Make sure you email me as we go through. Make sure you talk to your friends and your family. Think about what their values are, and make sure they know what your values are. Perhaps you've got trust and honesty there. Maybe you need to think about which one's more important to you. Perhaps you've got fitness. Perhaps it's too broad and you need to be more specific with what those specific values are. All right, so today we've covered things like your unrealistic dream. We've looked at your big, bold, unrealistic dream of who you truly want to be. You've jumped outside your comfort zone and you've created some outrageous goals. And then we've worked back from there and we've looked at a timeline and we've looked at specific signposts or specific short-term goals you can achieve, or specific, sometimes at work you'll get them called key performance indicators. What are the things that are within your control that you can achieve in the shorter term, that if you do that, you know with faith, you'll end up achieving what you want to achieve? And you've got those written down now, your timeline specific signposts. And as they follow on, you've also worked out the importance of your daily habits or the daily tasks you're going to need to do to achieve that signpost, those signposts. Daily habits being things that upkeep the other areas of your life, or daily habits being what you need to do every single day in pursuit of that ultimate, outrageous, unrealistic dream end. Who do you truly want to be? Not what, but who. Because your daily tasks and your daily habits will be the key or the main result maker of who that person is. Okay, so today, what you have written down, the action you've taken, and the tangible takeaways that you have will be a visual description, and you will have written it down, of what your dreams are. If you haven't done that, if that's not in front of you right now, you need to pause and you need to create and write down your unrealistic dreams. If you're stuck, if the creativity is just not coming, I want you to think about where you might find these dreams. Magazines, Instagram, reading books, people you know. Go back to last week, think about the people you admire. Think about who you want to be. You know, after you've passed, how are people going to reflect on the type of person you were? What did that person achieve? Think about the authentic you. You've got all of these things written down now. 4 areas of your life: refueling, relationships, fitness, and family. 2 unrealistic, outrageous goals in each. Beyond those 8 goals, you've also written down your signposts. You've written down a timeline, and when along that timeline you're going to achieve what that gets you to achieving the ultimate unrealistic goal. And after the signposts have been written down, you've worked out the daily tasks. You've worked out what steps you can implement immediately, what things you can do today, tomorrow, next week, and next month to get to where you want to go. And that's both in working out what daily tasks will upkeep all areas of your life and what daily tasks will progress you to achieving your ultimate end goal, or to achieving the short-term goal and getting to the signpost and ticking off the signpost on the path to achieving that ultimate end goal. There'll be an opportunity for you to receive some additional resources from me. Now, those additional resources are things that I've used in my one-on-one online-based mastermind 8-week life hack program. Things like a weekly review to be able to check in with yourself as to what you've done. Now, what they look like is not going to be on the screen, but I'll have the downloads available either via email, PDF, or also on the site that you're watching this from. In the weekend review, I ask you things like, you need to review or write to yourself, what you nailed this week? What really worked well? What are you pumped about? What can you be positive about this week? Then also you'll be asking yourself what you were fearful of, or what didn't work, or what challenged you this week. And then you'll be diving further into some of those challenges and working out when that challenge did happen, what did you do? And what did you learn? And what would you do next time you are faced with that challenge? And then at the bottom of the weekly in review is also a question: how can Oz assist me with this challenge, with the program in general? You know, you'll be able to note and write that down so that you can put that in an email and you can send it across to me. The second form is called the daily checklist. Now, this is a specific checklist that I designed, or a hybrid of one I was given at some stage, that you can put your tasks down on that are the daily tasks to achieve the signpost you want to achieve. And that'll be not only the progress tasks, but daily fulfillment tasks as well. Your progress tasks and your daily fulfillment tasks. The daily checklist makes a fair, make a fair bit of sense when you're looking at it. You'll be able to put those tasks in. And there's also a section for you to tick whether you've done them every day. So there's a little table. It's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so on. And you give yourself a score so that by the end of the week, you can look at that score and say, if it's a 1 out of 7, you're like, all right, well, I need to pick up my game there in that area. Or if it's a 7 out of 7, you can give yourself a high five and move on. The next form is called the gratitude journal. Now, there are some questions that I ask that you ask yourself at the end of every day. Of course, you've been told or have read many times about gratitude journaling. Spending some time at the end of the day to reflect on the good things that happen and the things that you're grateful for, because it puts you in a better mood and it makes you live a better life, so on and so forth. I'm not the first person to have taught you about this. My questions are a little bit more specific. So I ask you to think about 2 of your happiest moments of the day you've just had. Write them down. I loved it when my son did X. I was pumped when my boss came and found me and told me that I'd done a great job with, so on and so forth. The next question is that you fulfill this sentence. I am happiest when. And that doesn't necessarily need to be from that day, but just what pops into your head straight away when you say to yourself, I am happiest when. I am happiest when I am recording webinars and teaching people how to live their best life. It is more important for me to what than to what. It is more important for me to help my family with this than it is for me to stay in the office and do work. In pursuit of your ultimate end goal, what's it more important that you do? If running a marathon is one thing, then perhaps it's more important that you run every single day, regardless of the weather, than it is for you to stay inside if it's raining. In 10 years' time, I see myself. This is the opportunity for you to look into the future. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? What's different about your day in 10 years as opposed to now? And then the last one is, today I was passionate about. What were you most passionate about during that day? The last additional resource is called the daily intention. I want you to set your intentions for the day. And an intention for the day is not a to-do list. Your intention for the day is an intention to set how you're going to live that day. So it's not a to-do list. It's not got anything to do with your daily task. This is how you're going to be. If the idea of this program by the end of it is knowing who you want to be, then your daily intention is surrounded by that. So in your vocation, who are you going to be that day? In your relationships, who are you going to be that day? It's not an intention to have breakfast with my entire family. It is an intention to be the type of person who has breakfast with your whole family. In fitness, who are you going to be that day? And in refueling in the recreation space, who are you going to be that day? What is your intention? So they're the additional resources, and they'll be either available via email, depending on what avenue you're watching this webinar through. It may be a link you can click on there as well. Guys and girls, if you need anything from me at the end of this webinar, after everything I've just said, make sure you email me. You have 3 months access from the date of purchase of this program to get in contact with me. There's my email. Ask questions. I'm not doing this for the fun of doing it. I do enjoy it, but that's not why I'm here. I'm doing it to get you results, to get you where you need to go. So I ask that you take advantage of me, take advantage of the resources, take advantage of the 8-week life hack. ask the questions, and get the results. You need to do the work, but in doing the work, you need to take advantage of what resources you have. I hope that all makes sense. I'm looking forward to next week where we get started a little bit more on the planning side. Unrealistic goals, unrealistic dreams, and outrageous out of your comfort zone dreams is what I want for you and what we need for the world. A more ambitious place and a more fulfilled place is what the 8-week life hack will create. Until next time, enjoy. We'll speak soon. Bye.